She was small, fragile, and trapped in a wheelchair. Her father, cold and heartless, ordered his attack dog to charge. But just as the German Shepherd lunged, something unbelievable happened. What the dog did next didn't just stop a tragedy. It exposed a truth that shook everyone to the core. Richard Langston was the kind of man whose name commanded attention: real estate mogul, billionaire investor, and the face behind half the city's skyline. Power meant everything to Richard. Control was his religion. And weakness? That was unforgivable. His mansion sat on a hilltop, gated and guarded, spotless like a showroom. Inside, among the marble floors and echoing hallways, lived Emily, his 9-year-old daughter. Once full of life, now bound to a wheelchair after a car crash that stole her ability to walk. Richard never spoke of the crash, never spoke of her pain. In his eyes, the accident had left not only her legs broken, but her worth, too. He didn't attend therapy sessions, didn't sit by her side at night. What he did do was spend time with Caesar, his massive German Shepherd, a military-grade protection dog he imported from Europe. Caesar was trained for obedience, intimidation, and if commanded, destruction. Emily watched from afar, longing not just for her father's love, but for a simple connection with anyone. Sometimes, she'd roll out into the courtyard just to catch a glimpse of Caesar's sprinting drills, hoping one day he might notice her in return. He always did. But Richard made sure they never got close. He wasn't raising a daughter anymore. He was protecting an empire of silence, and it would take a single moment to tear that empire apart. It was a rare sunny afternoon on the Langston estate. Emily had been wheeled into the courtyard by a silent housemaid who quickly retreated after placing her near the rose garden. She watched Caesar from a distance, his coat gleaming in the sun as he obeyed Richard's barked commands like a machine. Sit, stay, attack, return. Always sharp, always perfect, but today felt different. Caesar glanced toward her more than once. His ears twitched when she laughed softly as he leapt over a low barrier. For once, Richard stepped inside to answer a call, leaving Caesar to pace freely within the open field. Emily looked around. No one was watching. She reached down, trembling, and carefully wheeled closer. Her small voice broke the silence. "Hi, boy. You're so fast." Caesar stopped, ears perked. He tilted his head curiously, stepping toward her, tail low and cautious. She extended her hand, but the moment their eyes met, a voice boomed from behind. "What do you think you're doing?" Richard stormed back outside, eyes blazing. "You don't touch that dog. You think you're strong enough to control him? You can't even stand." Emily recoiled, lips quivering, but didn't cry. Richard's rage deepened. "Let me show you what strength looks like," he spat, and with a flick of his hand, he pointed to her and snapped, "Attack." The word cut through the air like a blade. Caesar froze. Then, like a bullet, he charged toward Emily, legs pounding the dirt, breath sharp, eyes locked. She screamed, and time stood still. Caesar's paws thundered against the ground, dirt flying behind him as he closed the distance between himself and the terrified girl in the wheelchair. Emily froze, paralyzed by more than just her body. Her hands gripped the sides of her chair, breath caught in her throat, eyes wide with terror. Richard stood several feet away, arms crossed, expecting a display of dominance, a lesson taught through fear. But what happened next defied everything. Just as Caesar reached her, he stopped. Inches from her knees, the massive German Shepherd skidded to a halt, chest heaving. He didn't snarl. He didn't snap. He simply looked at her, really looked at her, with soft, searching eyes. Emily whimpered, shielding her face. But then, something touched her hand. A warm, wet nose. Caesar let out a low, almost mournful whine. Then, slowly, he lowered his body to the ground and rested his head gently on her lap. Emily blinked through her tears, unsure if it was real. She reached out and stroked his fur. He didn't flinch. He nuzzled closer, letting out a soft huff, his tail gently tapping the ground behind him. Gasps erupted from the staff members watching nearby. One dropped a tray. Richard's face turned red, not with pride, but with fury. "No," he bellowed. "Get away from her." But Caesar didn't move. In fact, he pressed in closer, protectively. What was meant to be a show of cruelty had turned into something else entirely, and the hidden security camera had captured every second. The next morning, The footage surfaced, leaked by a House staff member who had secretly pulled it from the estate's security system. It began as a muted clip, a wheelchair-bound girl alone, a charging German shepherd, and then an unthinkable twist. Caesar, instead of attacking, surrendered at her feet. Billionaire commands dog to attack disabled daughter. Dog refuses. Heroic. German shepherd disobeys cruel order, protects child. Outrage surged. News vans crowded the Langston gates. Social workers arrived alongside armed officers. Richard Langston, once untouchable, was now under investigation for child endangerment, abuse, and psychological trauma. Emily was removed from the estate immediately, wrapped in a soft blanket by a CPS worker who knelt and whispered, "You're safe now." She didn't speak. She just looked back at Caesar, who whined as she was driven away. Animal Control seized Caesar later that day for behavioral evaluation. Everyone feared he might be euthanized, but when specialists tested him, what they found stunned them. Caesar had been trained with strict aggression cues, but had disobeyed a direct attack command. Not because he was confused, but because he knew it was wrong. His instincts, they said, overpowered years of programming. He's not dangerous. One handler said, "He's exceptional." Social media crowned Caesar a hero. The world watched as a man fell from power, but a girl and her dog rose from the ashes of silence. With the truth finally on their side, Emily's new home was nothing like the mansion she had come from. It was smaller, quieter, but filled with warmth. Her foster parents, the Whitakers, were kind, patient, and gentle in every way Richard had never been. They didn't speak to her like she was broken. They spoke to her like she was healing. At first, Emily barely spoke at all. She missed Caesar deeply. Every night, she'd fall asleep clutching the only photo she had of him, head resting in her lap, that day in the courtyard. The memory both comforted and haunted her. Then, one evening, the doorbell rang. Standing outside was a uniformed officer, and beside him, Caesar. Emily gasped, tears filling her eyes before a single word escaped her mouth. The officer knelt beside her. "He's passed every evaluation," he said gently. "He's officially yours, certified as a service companion." She didn't wait. She opened her arms, and Caesar rushed into them, tail wagging, letting out soft whimpers of joy. They stayed like that for minutes, curled into each other on the porch. From that day on, Caesar wasn't just her dog. He was her protector, her therapy partner, her reason to keep moving forward. He helped her open doors, retrieved items she dropped, and even alerted the Whitakers when Emily had a nightmare. But more than any task, he gave her something she'd never truly known before: unconditional love. Together, they weren't just starting over. They were rewriting what love, loyalty, and strength looked like, side by side. The video of Caesar defying Richard's command continued to spread across the globe, but it was a new image that captured even more hearts. A photo of Emily, now smiling, seated in her wheelchair with Caesar by her side at a community park. The studio was silent as Emily spoke, voice soft but steady. She recounted her story, not with anger, but with incredible grace. She talked about being ignored, invisible, silenced. And then, she smiled and rested her hand on Caesar's back. "When no one saw me." "He did," she said. "Caesar didn't save me from a dog. He saved me from a world that told me I wasn't worth saving." The clip aired. Millions watched. Millions wept. Richard Langston was convicted of child endangerment and lost all custody and public credibility. His empire, once built on fear, had crumbled under the weight of truth and compassion. But Emily's story wasn't about destruction. It was about rebirth. In her final words, spoken through tears and triumph, she said, "I thought I was broken. But Caesar showed me I was never broken. I just needed someone who wouldn't walk away." And the world finally listened.